umbrellas are crap as a parachute, but without any other known practical use for them, today we're going to see how well they perform as a sail by revisiting one of my first creations. Now, as you may have guessed, I was always building random stuff as a kid. I guess my parents were into free-range parenting and just let me do things, whether it was a good idea or not. One of my first questionably brilliant ideas was building this, a wind-powered skateboard. The idea was to mount a beach umbrella onto a skateboard, reinforce it with a rope bridle to hold its shape, and let the wind do the rest. Of course, I tested it on my little sister first to make sure it was safe. Now, I only have vague memories of how it performed, but I do remember one key moment, which was riding it down a footpath completely unable to stop, eventually blasting through an intersection with little control. To keep me safe, maybe that's why my parents got me into proper land yacht sailing and racing. But now looking back, compared to other sails, a beach umbrella is almost the right kind of shape to be a sail, capable of going across the wind like a yacht would. But now looking back, with a lot more wind sport experience under my belt, I'm curious, was this idea actually any good, or can it be made good? Today we'll find out. Also, thank you to our sponsor Ecoflow for supporting this video, and be sure to hang around because I've got something awesome to give away. The first thing we're going to need is a beach umbrella. I managed to pick this 2 meter wide one up for 10 bucks. Bargain. It's going to need some modifications, but before we do that, let's build ourselves a skateboard to mount it on. I no longer have my original skateboard, but I do have this cheap longboard that has some decent trucks on it. If you're not familiar with trucks, it's a more confusing way of saying the wheels, axles and shit. Even though this board is bigger than my old one, I feel it's still too small for what we need. Since I'd rather not end up with a polyurethane wheel lodged in my crack, I'll make a bigger board and just use these trucks. Now, the proper way to make a skateboard would be by using multiple layers of ply and gluing them together with a nice cup shape, which adds strength to the length of the board. But why do things properly when we can half-ass it and use an overly heavy, overly thick piece of plywood? To engineer the perfect size board that will accommodate both a mast and human victim, a human rider, I'm just going to trace around my ass as a template and then leave some room near my feet for the umbrella attachment. I'm not really sure how the board will behave because I want to use our umbrella sail to the side so we can travel across the wind and back. So I've just made sure we've got enough room to mount the umbrella in different places if we need to. With all that marked out, I got out the old circular saw and cut out a basic skateboard shape. But for a 25-year-old circular saw, this thing is still going strong. We now have ourselves a skateboard rectangle. Then I took a moment for a break to have a quick bowl of perfectly round corners, which I then cut out with the jigsaw. To make it extra skateboard looking, I then cleaned up the corners on the sander. We can now remove the skateboard wheels and shit from the donor board. They were a bit hard to get out because it appears the tree has actually grown around the axle assembly. So I had to dismantle them some more to release them from their timber captor.
How'd you get in there?
Apparently if you count how many axles the board has consumed, you can work out the age of the tree. So it looks like this one was 2 years old. But just before I mount these on the board, I thought it was well worth testing them out as 2-wheel roller skates. I am really surprised just how optimal these would be at instantly busting ankles, or instantly connecting your crack to your sack. We now have to mount them on the board. Now, I don't know if there's a secret ratio to where skateboard wheels should be mounted exactly, but about here looked right. So I marked it all out to be nice and central, and then drilled some holes for the bolts. Because this board isn't made from skateboard board, it was way too thick for the bolts to reach, so I had to sink the bolt holes down a bit. With the bolts in place and everything tightened up, I then completed building my first skateboard. After a few minor adjustments, I gave the skateboard a go in the shed. It's only about 7 times heavier than a regular skateboard. The laminate was stupidly slippery, so I gave it a bit of a sand with the sander just to give it some grip. Not as grippy as a proper skateboard, but it should be enough to give me a false sense of security. But the problem is now, when you're steering, the wheels hit the underside of the board and lock up. And that's not the only problem. With skateboards, there's a limit to how far you can rock them before they roll over onto the edge. Because we're sitting on the board holding the edges, this could be bad for fingers. To work around this issue, rather than me learning how to make skateboards properly, I'm going to simply add some small roller skate wheels which will hit the ground and prevent any fingers from being shaved off and turned into Lego Man hands. So I welded up these looking axles and quickly painted them to hide my bad welds. I used the traditional backyard mechanic stack of washers to fix up any measurement issues. Then put the wheels on, tighten them up, and we have ourselves a nice little set of training wheels. Now mounting these is where things get tricky, because when a skateboard is fully rolled onto the edge, the angle of the axle actually changes. To make sure these little trainer wheels aren't dragged along sideways, I had to work out the pretty specific angle that they'll be at. This so they would line up with the skateboard wheels when we're at full tilt going through a corner. That seems to be doing the trick. The wheels of the skateboard are no longer locking up on the bottom of the board, and there's a nice gap around the edge of the board, so any fingers that are grabbing onto it aren't going to get mulched on the bitumen if the board rolls over. But of course, in solving one finger hazard problem, I have created a new one. Instead of grading fingers, we're now going to have some rolling pins making some flat dough out of our fingers.
Ow.
So I've gone back and made up some small wood panels to guard fingers from the wheels. These will probably cause ankle injuries, but our hands are now safe. The board now looks like some kind of half-assed aircraft you'd make in your first class of high school woodwork. It's now time for us to work out the position of the mast. I'm thinking we put it roughly about here. But I'm also going to put in some extra holes so we can change the position if we need to.
It's actually raining at the moment.
So I thought it would be a great opportunity to try the beach umbrella as a water umbrella.
Not as exciting as I thought.
Now to mount the umbrella, rather than just hammering it through the board, we're going to need some kind of universal joint so we can move our umbrella sail around. Rope would probably do the trick, but I've got a bunch of old windsurfing gear laying around. And windsurfing sails work in the same way, and have this universal joint at the bottom which features this polyurethane tampon. To adapt the umbrella pole down to the right size to fit the tampon, I'm off to the scrap box. Today's flavour options include licorice, banana, robot schlong, and orange flavour. It turns out that the robot's old fella is actually the perfect size for the umbrella after a little bit of internal smoothing. I gave it a piercing and tightened up the nuts. And then I've drilled a few mast placement options into the board. The universal joint's got this square nut, so I had to chisel some square circles on the bottom of the board. But then I could get our umbrella sail mounted in place. So the cool thing with this universal joint is it's quite thick, so it helps hold the umbrella up, which will hopefully stop it from getting trashed on the ground if you drop it.
At a minimum, it's shade.
With that complete, the last step of the process was to reinforce the umbrella to stop it popping inside out. I've taken inspiration from kites that have a bridle of strings that holds everything in shape. So using some builder's line, I've tied all the strings to this ring on the mast, and then off to each rib of the umbrella, and then just chuck some super glue on to stop any of my crappy knots from becoming untied. With the bridle complete, my childhood beach umbrella land yacht has been reborn, and we are now ready to give it our first field test. But just before we do that, I'd like to show you something else I've been field testing lately, and that's the Delta 3 Plus portable power station by Ecoflow, who've kindly sponsored today's video. Now, like you may already know, I've been loving my recent discovery of portable power stations, which have really opened up a new world to me as far as being able to power random things that I've built in obscure locations, which my family loves being dragged along to. So the Delta 3 Plus is Ecoflow's newest unit, and I'm putting it out there, but I think this may be the best all-rounder power station to date. With its crazy compact size and lightweight design, which is just 12.5 kilograms, combined with a massive power output and ultra-fast AC charging, up to 80% in 40 minutes, this unit is as powerful as it is convenient. Like seriously, it has a lot of power. When I first opened this and I saw the 15 amp outlet plug, I thought they'd made a mistake. I don't even have a 15 amp outlet in my house, let alone one that I can carry around with me in the car that's the size of a shoebox. For me personally, this has been the perfect replacement for my portable lead acid battery I use to power the car fridge when I go camping, because it's lighter, lasts longer, and it recharges way more efficiently when you're driving in the car. But as promised at the start of the video, we have a giveaway for one of my Aussie subscribers. To get you started on your portable power adventures, Ecoflow is giving away one of its compact and powerful River 3 portable power stations, and also a power hat to keep your phone charged from the sun while you're out and about. To enter, all you need to do is comment on this video with the hashtag EcoflowAustralia, and the winner will be announced via a comment reply. But please be careful of any dodgy fake accounts pretending to be me. Check out the full giveaway details in the description below. So I figured this idea probably wouldn't work that well, but then the night before the first test, I started thinking, what if it works too well? I mean, your typical land yachts have a 5 square metre sail and can reach 100 kilometres per hour, and this umbrella is just over 3 square metres. Yeah, it's not the ideal shape, but still, we'll be on a skateboard with no brakes or steering. With that in mind, I thought we would kick it off with a really light wind test. Obviously, I planned to test it on my sister first, but she conveniently broke her wrist only 2 days before. So her son was the next best option. After a quick briefing on the near non-existent controls, he was off.
so fast.
Now the conditions really were not ideal, only about 5 to 10 knots.
I didn't tell him how to steer. Just lean to steer.
His brakes seemed to work, so I thought it was safe for me to have a go.
Yeah, we're off.
Look at him go!
And the only quiet road we had was running directly with the wind. But I really want to try this out, running across the wind like a proper yacht. But this is still a good warm-up. That's not too bad so far, and it's getting over the speed bumps just fine.
Wow, I can't see anything in front of me.
That's a good point.
To be honest, I'm surprised this was moving at all in the light wind. But you could definitely feel the odd light gust powering it up, so there's some potential there. With just a slight increase in wind, it became obvious when the kids couldn't stop that it needed way more space and some kind of brakes.
I can't.
Oh man.
So that night, I came up with this piece of crap foot brake. It's pretty rough, but it's strong. We finally had some wind predicted, so we headed out to give it another test. With stronger wind, my nephew was also keen to give it another go. For safety, unlike 9-year-old me flying down the road with bare feet and boardies on, we've got a big car park and he's actually wearing some safety gear. Before he had a go though, I thought I'd give it a test first.
Whoa, blew out.
Yeah, the umbrella blew out immediately. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Nah, we rehooked the ends and gave it another go. And now, 30 years since my first beach umbrella land yacht, I was off. And it looks just as stupid as I imagined. Having said that, the umbrella was holding its shape really well, and I was managing to go across the wind and back rather than just with the wind, which is proper sailing. But then, as soon as there was another gust...
Oh, again.
At this point, I thought it just wasn't going to work. But then Kristen had the idea of just gaffer taping the ends, which held up quite well.
Okay.
And we were off again. The umbrella is staying together, but the front edge does flex inwards a bit, which is probably killing some of the performance. That and the fact that it's an umbrella.
That wasn't too bad. Got through the corner.
But even still, as soon as it loads up with a gust of wind, it's hard to get it under control. So when you hold the umbrella up straight, it depowers it, and then when you lower it, it generates more power. The problem is, when it generates more power, you can't hold it, and it lowers itself even more. So you end up with this vicious cycle of not being able to get the thing under control.
Coming up some rocks. Bit of speed through the jibe.
You can really see here how much the ribs are flexing without having the strings going all the way to the end. I'm actually starting to think umbrellas are designed to fail like this, because you can imagine how out of control this would get with someone trying to hold it down on the beach on a windy day.
It just bends around so much. When you go downwind, like it's ready to just take off. Like if I just went that way, just end up in the ocean there. But going this way, you can't see where you can't see where you're going.
So far the brakes seem to work okay, especially if you back them up with a parked car. That was the other driver's fault.
You can't steer once it powers up. It's just, you're just going with it, that's it. Yeah, I don't know why. Something about the steering geometry and how it's pulling on it, it takes you, you're done. That is dangerous. So, confirmed it was definitely dangerous. Thanks, Mum.
So, one of the steering issues I'm having is as soon as the umbrella gets powered up, it pulls on the board and rolls it. And as you know with skateboards, this is exactly what steers the wheels.
Hold it up higher. Hold it up higher. Hold it up higher.
With everything wrong with it, it was obviously time to let my nephew have a go.
It's so strong.
Yeah. Use the brake, not your hands. Yeah. You got it.
The umbrella was a bit out of reach for him, so he was leaning forward so much that he was riding the brake pedal.
I hate this.
Yeah, I did.
How can you control?
All right, let's. There you go.
So to allow him to be able to hold the umbrella better, we moved the mast position to the back hole.
More optimal for Hunter. Yeah. Yes, you got it. Okay, brakes. Brakes. Nice. Whoa. Okay, and forward. Hold it about here.
Bye bye.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that tickles.
Nice with the brakes.
I thought I'd have another go and discovered the other major steering problem, which I completely didn't allow for because I thought, hey, it's just an umbrella on a skateboard.
Jesus. It moved the whole front of the board.
But with yachts, you need to balance the centre of effort with the centre of resistance. Basically, where the sail is pulling from has to be balanced with where you've actually got grip, whether it's on water or land. So for this setup, I should have had more weight forward or had the mast mounted further back here, pulling on my knob. Now I thought the brakes were actually working fairly well. However, as my nephew soon discovered, when he couldn't stop, it was only if you're travelling in one direction. As soon as you're going the other way, and the wind is on the same side as this wheel, it doesn't have much weight on it, and it's just locking up.
The brakes don't work.
I think you're locking it up, yeah. Not your fault. No, just I think the wheel's sliding. Oh, because it's on this side.
But I was running along too, just in case my sister wanted her offspring back.
Watch out, Hunter.
The whole thing wobbles around a fair bit, so I'm glad I put these extra wheels on the back. So I thought I'd have a go at tacking, which is where you make a turn towards the wind. The umbrella folded a little bit, but it made it through the turn. After a while, the wind seemed to steadily increase, so I thought I'd try and get some speed runs in.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Pretty cars.
I kind of missed the gust there, so it was worth having another attempt. Whatever we achieve will be the current skateboard beach umbrella world record. The beach umbrella was really getting stretched to its limits, but this was probably the fastest run over the afternoon. And then the umbrella just couldn't take any more.
Oh, the look of shame.
I think that's about it. Don't think you can handle much more wind.
I don't know what your problem is.
That was going pretty quick then. Like it's not like a proper land yacht, but it feels more dangerous because you've got so little control. Brakes don't work. It kind of gets like speed wobbles.
If you're not already subscribed, please consider doing so. It really helps the channel out, and I'll be able to keep doing these videos. I'll catch you all next time.